Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Jamie MacDonald here. I'm the marketing coordinator at EverLast Lighting, and I've got Alex Orr with me. He's our VP of Sales. You guys all know Alex really well. Just want to thank you guys for taking a little bit of time out of your afternoon to sit in on this little recap webinar about 2019 and what our vision here at EverLast for 2020 are.
Thank you, Jamie. As most of you know, or those of you that have been a part of our series before, this is what we call our Quick 30 series, and our whole entire goal here is to try to keep this between 20 and 30 minutes, just to ensure that we're not completely interrupting your entire day. And maybe this is something you can look at on one screen and be completing some work and that and the other while you kind of listen to some of our suggestions and just our overall 2019 wrap up and summary. And we will kind of briefly touch on a couple of programs and so on that we plan on doing for our manufacturers rep agencies in 2020. Did want to remind everybody that there is a question and comment section, just a little Q&A. Feel free to type in any questions or concerns. For those that I see that are typed in, we'll try to address those during the webinar. If for whatever reason there's some that kind of come in at the end or there's not an opportunity to answer them, we certainly will reach out to you individually. We'll pass this message along to your regional sales manager and make sure that we get your questions answered. Let me think here. Any other quick points?
I think that about covers it, Alex. Let's just jump right in here.
Cool. All right. Oh, one more thing I did want to mention. We do have a recording. So for those of your staff that might not have been able to make it today, we will be sending out the recording or a link to the, YouTube?
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube posted, and I'll send that out in a follow-up email. The next email that you get from EverLast will have that link contained in it, as well as other information that we'll be sending out.
Cool. Here we go. Baby. There we go. All right, just a little overview here of what you can expect today. So as always, want to let you know that our product continues to be built for you and your customers specifically. And today we're going to highlight just some product and sales trends that we saw from 2019, any of the new marketing resources that Jamie and his team have been putting together, briefly explain some new agency referral programs. So some of you that are on the webinar today, I briefly kind of mentioned some things to you about this referral program. We're super excited about it. We got a couple holes around the country that we want to look to fill, and I think you can be a really integral part to that. So we're super excited about this new program. And lastly, we're going to cover just some new ways that you can expect your EverLast regional manager to support you moving forward. All right. So Jamie, I guess most of the listeners today would have guessed that this would be our trend. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, without a doubt. I think everybody knows that EverLast is synonymous with the high bay market for sure. So I guess you're probably going to spend a little bit of time going over some of what the product trends that we saw on our end from the sales that you guys generated for us here at EverLast.
So really, how we work with a lot of our manufacturers reps, some of you do a fantastic job. You're maybe a little bit of a smaller agency, small to mid-size agency. You use our product line, breadth and depth from a high bay all the way to a wall pack and 2x4 panels. But some of you have really big conglomerate lines, and you find ways to use our product, and they help fill gaps for you that make a ton of sense. We have some manufacturers reps that are on the call today that do hundreds of millions of dollars in business, not necessarily all with us, although that would be great. They do a great job for us. And some of those large agencies have found a way to integrate our line and make us a pivotal part of, filling some of the holes that you normally would see in a conglomerate line, where maybe product needs to be modified in a certain way. And you can kind of get that point when you start looking at these three products.
For sure. It's funny, the topic of conversation around here sometimes is product overlap from one brand to another and how EverLast fits into someone's line card at an agency, if they have something that's similar. And I think we've been doing a pretty good job of differentiating ourselves and fitting into that, the ability to fill in even if there is overlap from one product line to another.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And we'll talk a little bit about that overlap when we go to that rep referral program. So as far as your reporting, so every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we have something called a organizational scrum or a company scrum here. And what that is it's a stand-up meeting, 15 minutes, same time, same place, every single Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And everybody that goes to that meeting is responsible for sharing a couple tidbits of advice or some really high impact numbers that mean a lot to our organization. And one thing that Jamie is responsible for is reporting some numbers about landing page visits, quote form fills, and so on, all things that are related to our website. And what would you say about these three products, standard high bay, the high temp high bays, and the shoe boxes, as they relate to maybe some of those numbers that you share with our team?
So like Alex alluded to, every week we report these numbers during our stand-up meetings several times a week. And I'll be honest, it feels a little redundant sometimes for me to go into the meeting because I'm pretty much reporting very similar trends constantly throughout the year, regardless of market trends. It doesn't matter. High bays continue to be the number one landing page for us, aside from the homepage, obviously, and followed up immediately after our standard high bay offerings. People jumped right into the high temp offerings as well. And then pulling up third place there are shoe boxes. So I think it's pretty easy to see where our interest lies in our customer base for sure, is with those three offerings.
So these, the standard high bay, this order of which these products are in is consistent across landing pages, product page visits, form fills, general non-web inquiries. So that would be like call-in inquiries or maybe a trade show inquiry. Number of units. So on my end, number of units produced, number of units sold. Basically, this is just consistent across the line. Now, I will say one thing. As we move into 2020, you may see some changes where that shoebox maybe takes that second place of interest for not reasons like product development or competition or anything like that. While we are continuing to develop all of our products, it's not the reason why that shoebox might take that second place and that high temp might fall into third. It's more because of the market and what some of the feedback that we've received from some of our partnered agencies is that we may see a little bit of a downturn in the steel industry. I know those of you that are in that heavy industrial, specifically steel industry today, you've already kind of shared that information with us, letting us know, hey, you know what, the first quarter, first half of the year, potentially even the entire year of 2020, we might see some of this heavy industrial steel business kind of take a little bit of a back burner because there was so much over purchase when when the economy kind of started to come back and everybody really loaded up heavy on over ordering the steel, so to speak. At least that's kind of what our market analysis has led us to. So just to kind of piggyback on that, we move over to some of the sales trends that we see. So I guess just in review of this first quarter here, it's important to see this because the first quarter for us, while it might have been a little slower or kind of just status quo for a lot of our agencies that we talk to, this was a backlog. So this was a huge backlog for us from 2018. And really that's kind of the objective, is to be so busy at the end of every year, and this happens a lot because those of you that are out there, you're really hustling at this point, really trying to crank down on those sales goals. And the more people that reach those sales goals in the late third quarter or the beginning of the fourth quarter really start to pile on because of the benefits of 15% commission, 100% overage, the bonus is there, all of those things are there. So that backlog helped a lot get us kind of started in 2019. Now that Q2 that you see there, that dip, that was pretty much what we saw when we started making phone calls across the industry. Wouldn't you agree?
I'd agree. It seemed nationwide, coast to coast, everybody saw that same slowdown.
So we didn't feel like we were completely out of place here. And those of you that shared feedback with us, that we're very transparent and we make these calls to try to get a gauge on the industry, just to have a general and better understanding of exactly what's happening out there in the market. So we were, as excited as you can be about this. We were excited to hear that we weren't the only ones that had a slow second quarter. But we were really excited to see that we did make some pretty drastic improvements in the third quarter. And while we didn't quite keep pace moving all the way into the fourth quarter, we did have a really strong finish to the end of the year, which for all intents and purposes, our interviews with a lot of our agencies and a lot of industry partners across the board, they were all expecting or had experienced a little bit of a downturn in the fourth quarter. So there's still reasons to be optimistic there. And then what would you have to say about maybe some of like the slow season? Like what kind of ideas would we recommend to our partners and to do in the slow or the downturn seasons?
So we'll get into it a little bit later as far as marketing resources go, but I'm definitely going to be the first person to say, if you start to see a slowdown, reach out to the marketing department here at EverLast, and we can kind of help formulate some sort of a marketing strategy for you on our end that maybe help drive business that you might not otherwise be looking at. I know we spoke last year quite a bit about niche markets and finding these unique opportunities that exist out there. And I'll be honest, I'm in the marketing department. Creativity is what I live on. And if I can get creative and help you guys find a market to tap into that you might not be aware of, we spend a lot of time doing market research on different regions, whether we're looking at what industries are viable out there that might be a good customer base for you, or again, focusing on these what we would consider niche markets, whether they be farm facilities or who knows. I mean, just reach out to the marketing department if you feel so inclined to. We'd love to work with you and collaborate.
All great points, super valid. Can also look at what lines maybe that they are selling that are kind of still humming along and maybe double down on some of those. Or certain product families of ours don't ever have a downturn or a slow season. And just kind of focus on when we do the same thing. What do we need to do to change our approach to make sure that we kind of bounce out of these things? And that's kind of what you can see as we recovered there in the third and fourth quarters. So kind of not a very, this isn't something that you guys haven't experienced already, right? So we keep seeing these lumen per watt increases. Everybody was at 100 lumens per watt, 2 years ago or so, and now everybody's kind of tipping the 150 to 170s, and you see a lot of people out there touting the 190s and 200 plus even in some cases. As you know, our approach is more about stability, but also kind of, I would say, cutting edge stability. We're not always lagging behind like you might see some of the larger maybe conglomerate lines that kind of always spend a little more time, I guess.
A little slow to turn that big corporate.
Yep. So we try to stay on what we would consider like the safe cutting edge of this stuff. And for 2019, we came out with the 13 series actually came out in 2018, or when we say 13 series, obviously we mean the 130 lumen per watt. That drug over to the beginning of, for most of our SKUs, the beginning of 2019. And then we quickly moved, and we had already started working on the 150 lumen per watt, or the 15 series, in late 2018, and then really launched that at the beginning. Kind of right, everybody kind of started getting some of those first looks right around Light Fair.
Right.
And then in 2020, so this is something that we started working on at the end of last year, is just getting our ducks in a row, making sure everything's nice and stable, but moving to the 17 series or the 170 lumen per watt. Again, at least for some of our SKUs, particularly probably the high lumen, high bays. We're working on some of our 300, 400, 500 watt stuff, but this will all be something. Oh, I forgot one thing to mention actually at the very beginning. We will be doing a second webinar here in the next couple of weeks. And when Jamie starts to send out the invitations, he'll give you guys a little bit of a teaser on what we're talking about. But just to allude to that, I'll get further down in the weeds a little bit about the specifics on what you're going to expect from us this year. Something else that you saw from 2019 or in 2019 was the branded casting. Again, we don't want to be the Me Too and UFO high bays, and us kind of getting our own name in our casting, which is something that we should have done a long time ago, obviously. But this wasn't really for us. It was probably more for our agency partners to help them out. End users don't necessarily care, but it does help when you say in terms of branding.
Without a doubt, you've got to differentiate yourself. There's a big stigma that's around, the feeling that everything looks the same, so everything must be coming from the same place overseas. And it just isn't the case with what we're doing here at EverLast. From in-house design castings and putting the branding on it, I think is just kind of the icing on the cake to prove that we're doing things in-house and not just doing everything overseas.
Yep. From the shoe boxes, 2019, you went from the 130 to 140 region, and from the 140 to kind of the mid 140s. Not huge improvements in this category, but I would say that there was at least some marginal efficiency gains. And The mid 140s is a nice place for that shoebox. Obviously in the shoebox world out there in those markets, glare is obviously a point of emphasis. So it takes a little bit longer to kind of develop optics and so on that really help ward off some of that glare. And again, we will have those specific updates on the 170 lumen per watt, which products those will be, and kind of what you can expect in the second webinar of this series that will be happening in a couple of weeks. And Jamie will obviously be sending out some emails about that. All right, so this is a lot of stuff that Jamie had a big part of in the marketing resources. So what did your 2019 look like for you in terms of kind of what kept you busy, what kept you up at night?
Oh boy. So 2019 was actually a great year. It was good to get a new website launched. We moved to a completely different platform to host that website. So everything was built from the ground up, and it wasn't built from the ground up with our own vision in mind as much as it was your vision in mind. Excuse me. We took a lot of feedback. We sent out polls, did a lot of questionnaires, and did some one-on-one phone calls with a lot of our reps to get a feel, get to gauge what you needed out of a website. So the website was built from the ground up specifically for you guys. So that was the big thing for me. There's nothing like launching a website and then putting out all the fires that ensue after. No, it doesn't matter how much product testing or beta testing you do on a website. You always have fires to put out, and we couldn't have done it without you guys. So I at least have to take a minute here and just thank everyone that participated in helping us evolve the website in 2019. And then we also started doing a lot more case studies. And before I talk much more about case studies, I just want to throw this out there. We thrive on being able to build case studies that represent the jobs that you guys have done using our products. I personally look forward to a ton. So I just want to put the invitation out there now. If you have any projects coming up this year, or if you have a past project that was done, with some of our products, and you think it's a good candidate for a case study, it's good press for everybody. So we'd love to do a case study on some of your highlight projects. So feel free again to reach out to me via email. I'd really look forward to that. We also put out some product guides and different resources. We've done a lot of videos in the past year as well. If you're not subscribing to us on YouTube, the emails that you get, there should be a little social icon at the bottom. Just click on that and go give us a subscribe. You might find some new content over there that you weren't aware of that we've created over the last year or so.
And kind of circling back to the website a little bit. So we had sent out, what do you call that? Like maybe a beta site or something like that to some of our partnered agencies. And they actually gave us a ton of feedback on just usability testing. And it really helped us out while we made changes to this website. It was kind of like a pre-launch test. And we viewed everybody and saw where did their eyes go and where were they at for certain periods of time. And it helped us understand better what features of our website are going to be most usable, are most important. And we still offer that today. Now, while it's not pre-launch feedback, obviously, it's just general transparent feedback that we always welcome. Of course, you're not yelling at me or yelling at Jamie, but just that constructive criticism that we expect.
Right. We've done that in the last week. We changed up some of the menu structure at the top of the web page, and you might notice that from a week ago. We've got a little bit of a different menu structure. And again, that was based on feedback from you. And again, we can't evolve the site for you if we don't have feedback from you. So again, feel free always to reach out.
And then just a side